real quick. Usually you don't have to order one from the state, but you still gotta pay that $10.
They were all in a
Send it
little
to your
old
email.
office in,
But they got your $10, because they only do it by credit card, they gotta figure that out.
I don't know what they
It's a
call it.
pretty good deal, but I mean, you know, there's almost 10 days till you get a lease for the reflex is you can find them.
Yeah, but
Like, oh, I
They
know.
did sell one now, my insurance company pays.
Well, all of them, everybody got it.
You have to see really the doctors have to
Right there.
really think I'm saying you can actually a lot of the singers going there for just throw voice or whatever.
Oh, no. They all over the country.
All right, we'll call the Kingston Springs Board of Commissioner public hearing to order right now. Is there anyone who would like to come forward and speak about ordinance 15-009, amending the 2014-2015 budget, the year-end adjustments?
No,
As advertised?
I wouldn't dare challenge Debbie.
All right. Seeing that no one would like to, public hearing has been adjourned. All right, we'll call to order the Kingston Springs Board of Commissioners regular business meeting, September 17th, 2015. Everyone could rise and face the flag. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America,
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Debbie, could you call the roll?
Corley.
Here.
Gross.
Here.
Langley.
Here.
Remick.
Here.
Stover.
Here.
All right, looks like we have a quorum. The minutes have been circulated. Has everyone got a chance to look over those? Motion to approve the minutes from the August 20th, 2015 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Confirmation of agenda. Do we have any additions to the agenda? I have one. To add item 8D, which is City Hall improvements, to be in there. And Debbie, if we were to add that other item, would that be on the, would we put that here, or just a discussion, you think?
Well, it depends on if you want to take action, then you'll need to
We
make
need to
it.
put it here, right? Well, all right, let's go ahead and add 8E as well, which is discussion of naming the city building, the city hall building after former mayor Tony Campbell. Who's in our presence tonight?
I don't know.
It used to wait till you died to do that.
We don't say that.
I would take close to my
Is it a memorial?
Nothing's memorial yet. So, okay. Announcements from,
Memorable is what it is.
yeah, memorable, there we go. Announcements from commissioners. Gordon, do you have anything?
Nothing.
I'm great.
I may have to back up. Was there, I missed.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to even have a motion, we got so
Okay.
sidetracked on telling you. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Thank you.
sorry about that, Debbie.
That's okay.
Gary, do you have anything?
No.
All right, I also don't have anything. All right, time for community input and concerns. I think we might hear from one of our,
Well, I talked to,
could you state your name?
let me
and
do it
address?
right. Yes. My name's Tony Campbell, I live at 330 Maple Street. I talked to the city manager, and I think I'm gonna address it at your agenda item on codes.
Okay,
Does that work?
that works.
You allow me to do that? What?
We'll have to suspend the rules.
Suspend the rules.
Speak at that time.
Yes. All right, on to the consent agenda. City manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is in your packets under item 5A. The first thing I wanted to let you know about was, if you remember back to this time last year, ISO was coming in to do their fire rating of us, and that resulted in kind of a a temporary sort of ruling for us. They said you can keep your rating so long as you submit an improvement plan with literally a bullet point list of things to improve upon, and you've got 12 months to do it. We had submitted a mid-year update to that, and they're going to review it, and we may just end up foregoing the whole year period, and may just end up finding out, hopefully by early next week, if we're good for that. So that's good news. You've got that attached. All the things that the firemen have been busy working on for the past couple of months. They made progress, I think, in everything, but the first category had to deal. Item 523 had to deal with the county 911 system. So there's that. At last month's meeting, I did want you to know that I had at least told you I was going to look into some sort of recycling program. I want to let you know what I found out. We had a meeting with myself, Southside Disposal, the County Solid Waste Board, and Carastar, the box factory on the other end of town. And I want to let you know what I found out. We kind of talked about increasing our recycling services that are offered and trying to figure out how we could do it cost effectively and have the biggest impact to residents or to the business community or however that might work. So we tried to figure out if we were going to have a collections site or sites, who might be interested in materials. Carastar was really interested in cardboard and paper. They wanted those materials. They committed, and so did the county commit to everybody could have a single stream. Everybody could put everything in a dumpster or in a thing, and they would pick through it to pick out their individual items. So we got a local business that was interested in cardboard and paper, and we got the county who was interested in aluminum and I think plastics when we had this conversation, and of course single stream. So that was a great first start, because most of the recycling that happens, they take it to Davidson County and they have to pay to get rid of it, rather than being paid for the materials they're giving them. So that was very reassuring when we sat down and worked that out. We also kind of looked at how collections might work. You already have a convenience center a couple miles up the road, and I think most of the residents probably use a convenience center in Bellevue.
There is a local recycling person who comes around for $10 a month.
Okay. So we were trying to figure out if a convenience center was more apt, or if curbside container was more apt. So what we did was we tried to figure out what a curbside container might look like, and we didn't want to duplicate services. So keeping all this in mind, we got those two containers. There are a 96-gallon container and a 35-gallon container that would be serviced by somebody weekly or not if we did curbside. The cost for this was too much. And there was a recycling equipment grant that TDEC gives out annually. They were really excited about trying to help us set up a program, be it curbside or be it in a convenience center, but that was the breakdown. It was a 60-40 breakdown, and a curbside container was just too much. When looking at who's in town and who might get services, we found out that there are pretty much 11,000 households here. In addition to that, if we were to run service, would we want to run service to 3 schools, 4 churches, and 68 businesses that all have maybe different recycling needs? So keeping all that in mind, we just kind of ran out of steam very quickly on it. It seemed like a little bit too much too soon, and a little bit more money than I had anticipated. There was questions about the costs associated with serving the containers. If we were to do curbside, what would that bill look like if it were to be picked up by a third party? How would billing work if we wanted to bill commercial clients or the residences. Also, if we're dealing in thousands of dollars, undoubtedly the auditor is going to want a separate solid waste fund to be set up. That takes time. And then also, I had kind of a question, and I'd be very interested to find out. Certainly, you guys might know what the demand for recycling services were. When we had our ice cream social, the number one thing that popped up on the radar for things that residents said they wanted to see the city pursue was green projects, whatever that means. So this seemed like an obvious kind of first step, but we also don't know who would utilize it, that isn't utilizing it now, that sort of thing. So that's what I found out about recycling. And it obviously it's something that we can circle back around to at any point, but for purposes of a TDEC grant this year, it's just a little bit too much, too soon. I did want to give you an update on transportation projects. I'll just kind of stroll through some of these pictures, but Brush Creek Road was moving right along. They've formed up the concrete. They poured the deck across the creek. And as of last Friday, that's what the structure looked like. The engineer, the inspector, is happy with everything. They've backfilled on either side with rock that is taking the rain, and actually it looks great.
Storm tested, it looks like.
Yes, yeah, we got a lot of rain last Friday afternoon. And there is, on the right side of this picture, you can't really see it all that well because the structure is highlighted, but on the right-hand side, there was a drainage issue that the rocks that they backfilled with were higher than the existing ditch line, so they had removed some of that to help with the drainage. So the concrete structure and the rock backfill is in. They are still needing to pave the approaches, and the guardrail needs to be installed. The paving of the approaches will happen next week, and the guardrail, I don't have a date on that yet. The guardrail is kind of key to us opening that road back up, because you can drive on rock, you just don't want to drive across the bridge with no sides.
It is open.
It is not open.
Your statement here in your
We had, when we put this together and got it out to you a couple days ago, we had thought the guardrail was going to be in place, but I don't have a date for that yet. So that's what's delaying that project. Undoubtedly, you've probably seen the graphic that we advertised for paving. They've been in town this week prepping streets to come pave. So that entails, cutting the grass back along the sides, cutting out valve boxes, doing a sweeping of the surface if there's issues. So they'll be doing that. They may have finished up today, but they may have one more day. We had initially thought that they were going to be here next Monday. We've got an update to that, and they anticipate being here next Wednesday to start. And when they start, they're going to start in Harpeth Meadows, and then go to the far side of town and work their way in.
Were you going to speak to some folks on Harpeth Meadows about the drainage, about the curb and all that?
I had spoken to some folks on Timber Ridge and Matthew Court, the people that live at the end of the cul-de-sac.
That is correct, right.
And what it is, in case you don't have a good visualization of it, the road slopes down, and they live at the end of the cul-de-sacs, which is at the lowest point. And pretty much what had happened was we saw that, even the contractor noted it, and they're going to put a kind of a asphalt swale or a bump across the driveway only. There's no curbs going in. We don't want to hold water on the street, so it'll be draining through the grass. But we did want to block the water running down driveways.
Thank you for addressing that.
I think that was 5 residences on those 2 streets.
Yes.
Have any questions about the transportation projects? Just moving down, JCVD, we did meet Donnie Jordan, the Cheatham County Commission chair was there. Got all those C words out. But he was there, and there was an economic development committee, I think, of the county commission that's trying to figure out how to promote development, promote the county, and really give the ED agencies and the towns more leeway to do what they do. So that was the discussion at JECBD. The Planning Commission has not met. We'll have TDOT to do some training next month. Kind of an update on activity center usage. I had a request for some of this, but since you guys had opened almost 3 years ago, that has hosted 67 events and counting, and gotten 334 hours of usage. Now that's paid. That doesn't include whatever the town's done on site in the past couple of years. We are giving them out to city residents. Almost 20% are taking that discount because they're town residents. And then there have also been a lot of all-day rentals, so I did want you to know that. Craggy Hope United Methodist Church filmed a pilot for a Billy Ray Cyrus episode a couple years ago. Y'all may remember this. Well, it ended up getting picked up, and they're going to be filming an entire 13, 14 episodes. They've already worked out with the church. They're filming in mid-October, and they've had a site locator, site scout, in town looking at other potential places to film. And this is neighborhoods, this is the front of their houses, and they were also interested in like a jail scene sort of thing, and a parole office. And when they film on site, they're going to have roughly 100 people doing the production. So they were also interested, and we took them to the activity center and just kind of show them, you could use this as HQ sort of thing. So they've been around here looking in town. You're probably going to hear about this, and then we'll also find out any day, I guess, if they're interested in meeting up with any residences or filming any of their locations in Kingston. Just kind of finishing this up, but Art in the Park is our big event, obviously. I'm anxious to see it. It's coming up here in a couple weeks. Peggy Deal had an event scheduled at the last meeting. This is a time that is incorrect when it was printed. We had a conflict issue with the date that was requested. And we straightened it out, I think, this morning, in that it's going to be the Saturday, the 26th of September. But we had an original scheduling conflict, and we thought we were pushing it back. Well, we're going to push it up a day. So September 26th, 2 to 4 is that. Wanted to let you know that Brandy is at a Parks Conference this week. At the end of the month, I think it's the 25th through the 30th, I'll be at a managers conference. All the towns working, the Parks Department is working on Art in the Park, and then I'll also be doing some follow-up with employees on the workplace safety issues I gave you the memo about last month.
So it's a Parks Conference in Las Vegas?
It is.
I just saw the Facebook post.
It is.
It's there every year.
Is it there every year? That's a good place to have, I guess.
Where else would you wanna go for a playground?
It's a valid point.
Downtown Nashville, that's like the playground.
There are some docket items for next month, and that's really everything I've got. Just and I'll do this as kind of discreetly and hopefully tactfully as I can. But many of you have heard over the past, I think, week or two that I found a way to well, you guys have great staff, and bottom line is I found a way to alienate an employee, and I've come to figure that out, and figured out that it was a mistake, and I'm apologetic to that individual, apologetic to the board, and I'm really committed to kind of working through it and making sure that everything is up on the up. So I wanted to communicate that to you. Do you have any questions of me?
Thank you for acknowledging it. Thank you for taking that direction, sir.
All right, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Legal updates.
Before you move on to that, I just wanted to let them know that included now is their,
Yes, there's a financial report that Debbie has prepared for you all, and I encourage you all to oh, I think I don't have my copy because no, there it is. that's, Debbie's gonna provide this to us every month, just to kind of give you an idea. And I think in the future, it's been a little bit of short notice, but in the future it'll come in email format, so you'll have a chance to look at it before, right before the meeting. But it'll just, give you an idea of where things are heading. And I had mentioned to Debbie, I think in an email this afternoon, that if you have a chance, and you have any questions about how this reads, take a little time and stop by and talk with Debbie, and she'll help you kind of navigate through it. And all she actually put a lot of work into making a nice condensed version for everyone. The actual version that Debbie creates every month is about so thick and would take quite a bit more time to make it through. So this is kind of the abbreviated version for you. The Cliff Notes.
Appreciate it.
Budget Cliff Notes.
Thank you.
All right, legal. I think.
I don't really have anything. I did want to let y'all know there is a planning
Sorry,
seminar.
guys. I wasn't here for the charge.
Now, I'll just interject really quickly, is a certain member of the audience tonight used to always specify that you silence
You
your cell
didn't do
phone
it.
before meetings, and I didn't do it.
Your fault.
Well, he's teaching me my lesson, so.
You're wise, so wise, thank you for
Sorry.
That's okay. There is, on October the 9th, there is a seminar in Nashville on planning. I think Mark Group is going to try.
That's it. I turned it off.
You just don't want me to talk.
Well, I don't know how to turn it off.
Throw it. I do.
Anyway, I didn't know, and it may be something, I know we have a new person on the planning commission, and I didn't know, it may be something that would be a little too much technical, but I can get the agenda if you want to send that to them and come look at it. But I think Martha Grove's trying to plan on attending that.
Okay. That it?
That's it.
All right.
I'm afraid Tony's phone's gonna ring.
Yeah. Gotta get it in quickly before the phone. All right, unfinished reading, or business, all right, second reading of ordinance 15-009, amending the 2014-2015 budget. We have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second. Debbie, would you like to?
You have 3 amendments, hearing amendments, and the first one was in the general fund, and it was where you all had voted to pay for the grant for the TDOT, whatever that is.
Multimodal grant.
Yes, thank you. And then the attorney fees were higher than were budgeted, and that's before your time. And
I'm
then
not gonna tell us that.
street aid, street lights were higher. And we finally figured out what that was, and that's for a while. They were having problems with the interstate lights staying lit up, and Clint and them have worked, and now they're on, so now we've seen a tremendous increase in people, so,
Well, that was over there since they've been up.
yeah. So,
I doubt that it's fixed myself.
you had a total of $18,210 that you increased your budget from the previous year. 3 minutes.
All in favor? Or do we have any other discussion? Anyone else have anything to add to that? No. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Second reading. Ordinance 1509 passes on second reading. New business, discussion of codes enforcement. We have James here as an expert, and
Go that far.
so do we need to suspend the rules and let Mr. Campbell
Is that the way you want to do it, Mike?
yes,
I'll
go
do it out
motion to
of Mike.
suspend the rules?
Motion to suspend the rules.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Well, I came to y'all 2-3 months ago with, I think, 4 addresses. And Mike was kind enough to go with me this week, and we took photographs of those addresses, plus, I think, 1. But we'll start out, I was asked if that was my new summer home, but this is in the trailer park. And I want to point out that Bay Northcutt's probably invested over $1 million up there in 5 duplexes. And they're very nice, well kept. A lot of people in the trailer park are really doing a good job of keeping their houses up and neat. But then we have places like this on Hillcrest Drive. That just, every week you go up there, it's worse. They just keep stacking more and more junk in there. And there's gotta be something that can be done about it. I think we ask too much of the codes person on this. We need some creativity from the commission, from the city manager and the attorney, and how to deal with it. And this is just one example. And I just think it's wrong to ask people to invest in their homes, keep it nice and everything else. Gordon, how would you like that down in your neighborhood?
I don't think I would like it.
I don't think you would either.
Mr. Mayor, there's a bunch of slides. If we could just kind of maybe go through each one of the slides and James could tell what he
Right,
sees.
you have any comment on two?
Yes, sir. Actually, if I may, 194, you're right, Mr. Tony. One of the things with Hillcrest, with that area, it is a very slow process. I'll be the first to tell you. We're making progress there on a lot of the properties. We have the some that we can walk next door and I can show you on the big dry erase board that you have to stay on pretty much regular basis. This particular property here, this picture here shows. I can show you pictures where there was a stack of tires and televisions on this side of the fence.
Oh,
Well, they removed those. But it's definitely one of the addresses that's constantly on the radar that I'm working with. It's, look around. You shouldn't have this. One of the biggest problems we have with Hillcrest is the neighbors don't complain on neighbors. 90% is complaint driven when it's property maintenance goes. Someone saying, hey, look at this property. What can we do about this? Unfortunately, in that community, that really doesn't happen.
Well, I can get something up there to do it.
So Tuesdays and Thursdays, and Mr. He remembers, I would say I have my loop. Tuesdays, what I call the upper loop, Thursdays, the lower loop. And that's how I try to visually see problems that need to be corrected. Again, this is one of the properties that is on the board. It's a constant work in progress with that property.
I want to commend James. He really tries hard and all, but I think it's just going to take a little extra effort on the part of this commission.
Are these rental properties or are they?
No.
He owns that home. Actually, the rental properties are easier to, they're easy to get cleaned up because the way it happens is I start out with a red warning tag or a warning letter. And if it's a rental property, it goes to whoever owns that property. So when they see it, then they usually have contact with them, and it usually gets handled fairly fast with those properties up there.
Now, this one is not one of my original complaints, but I pointed it out to Mike that you can't tell me that if you went inside that place that it was fit to live in. It's got blue tarp on the top to keep it. It's a black lady that works in Nashville. She works every day.
It's a doctor's office.
Yeah, and I just question, anyhow. That one wasn't one of mine, but it's one that makes you wonder about the conditions that some people live in.
Yes, sir, I would agree.
Have you been to that?
I've never been inside because the grass stays cut.
Yeah.
You can see the trash can on the porch. There's never, the outside, anything that would give me a reason other than just to blatantly go knock on the door and go, ma'am, I really want to look inside your house, which is probably not legal for me to do, that is what is preventing it, to be honest with you.
I understand that one.
But I do agree. It's when I looked at it, that trailer was an early '70s model trailer.
Probably one of the original ones up there.
Yes, sir. I believe it was.
All right. Now this is, there's a couple slides with this. This is Walnut Drive. It's,
I think it's 170.
176.
yeah, 176. And you're familiar with this.
Yes,
We've
sir.
been in and out of this for years. At one time it was, whatchamacallit's brother-in-law, Debbie.
Mike Baker.
Mike Baker's brother-in-law, yeah.
If I may, one thing with this property here is new dirt.
Yeah.
Actually, in going out, once I saw this picture, and it was brought to my attention, I think, a couple of weeks ago when y'all took those, went out there. Well, right across the street, he had some new dirt too.
Yeah.
So currently, both of these gentlemen are having to pull a grading permit for that dirt. But one of the other pictures, if Mike will go ahead, is the firewood. Now, here's the thing with the firewood, and we went over and over it. I actually went with legal counsel because based on our property maintenance code and the municipal code that we've adopted, there's nothing wrong with him having the firewood. Now, there was when he had a sign that said firewood for sale. He got a cease and desist order. You can't sell. You can't do that. You're running a business out of your house. You can't do that. He moved the sign. Firewood's still there. Here's the problem with that firewood. By our codes and stuff, there's nothing against him having that wood. Unless people on either side or whatever have complaints of vermin or something like that. You know, it's causing that type of problem. Again, with that community, I've not had any complaints of that nature. That would be the only thing that we could address that wood pile.
Well, there's another one here too.
Well, those were the two wood, pictures.
No, but didn't you take one of the Volkswagen and the car for sale? It's on the, he's actually gone over onto the property next to him and has stuff over there.
Yeah, it was a Volkswagen Beetle Bug, and he's got a for sale sign in it.
Yeah. Now this is on Kingston Springs Road. You really can't see the worst of it because it's back in the woods behind the brush. But that's in the woodlands of the harbor.
Yes, sir.
Now, I've had complaints on that one from one of the neighbors. This, to me, it just points out. I just think it's so wrong, and I just think that I can't help but feel that where all the wood is, that you can't get some testimony that there's vermin there. Now, that's just a haven for rats and snakes.
Yeah, yes, sir. And like I said, if I had those complaints, I could act on those from the neighbors or something like that. With 223 East Kingston Springs Road, he's an artist. I've had discussions with him. Actually, the green building you see there now, that was the last buildable structure that he can on that property. He is out of accessible space. The way that it reads is you're allowed 50% of your principal residence. He is at that. He cannot build any more structures now. I notice he's built some kind of flower box or something in the front.
You know, what about the truck?
I noticed it the other day too.
And he
So
had
I'll check
a
the truck for
car
him.
on the other side that was burned out.
But that was the one that had that mold on it. That was the next door neighbors, which is gone.
Hey, I think, is that it?
I noticed
No,
he's
that's
got
Love Street.
Now, this is my neighborhood, Tony and I's neighborhood.
All right.
And I've got a $300,000 house right up the street. That's easy depreciating. You do too, Gary.
If I
He's
may,
got 3 vehicles in there. I'm sure none of them have current license plate on them.
Yes.
I suspect none of them run. What did Mr. Burns say?
it's being taken care of. They've got 30 days. I've actually had multiple conversations with Mr. Burns via phone and handwritten letter, which is always pretty nice. We don't have that anymore. But I've spoken with him, and he's assured me that, one, that he didn't give permission for any of that stuff to be on his property. But he hand-delivered the letter. Because like I said, when you own property, the letter goes to the owner.
I saw him hand-delivered.
He hand-delivered the letter and then called me from the site and said, it's been hand-delivered by me. If there's any problems, please contact me at this phone number. We gave 30 days just due to the amount of stuff that's on there.
And if you look a
That's
little
right.
further, Mr. Nix has a red truck in his front yard that, do you ever remember seeing it moved? I've been there 7 years. Huh?
I can't say that I have, no.
How about you, Gary?
I don't really know so much the truck.
Gary doesn't usually leave his home that direction, I don't think, so.
No,
But it was given a,
I do know that that dirt he brought in about a week or so ago. Just trip after trip, about every 15 minutes he's down our street, and I don't know what he's getting from Carl or the other place. But
He's storing it for somebody like Carl on Settlement.
the The actual certified letter was received,
I
on the 2nd, so they have 30 days from that date to have it.
Will be interesting, because I have visited with Mr. Burns at least 3 times about every one of those specific things except the dirt pile.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I guess, I don't know, these are some more than, huh?
Yeah, no, that's one that when me and Mike went up there, they're receiving a letter. They are new to that house. They just started moving in, and they've got stuff. It's almost at the cul-de-sac of Hillcrest.
Down by Jan Ruckers and.
Yes, right there where the cross street is. It's right there. We actually noticed it when we went by. I think we passed it the first time, and it was like, let me back up a minute. What was that? Because it's shaded and you couldn't see what all was on the front porch. But that one's also been.
Well, I asked Mike this afternoon too about this house
420 Mount Pleasant.
and Bubba's grandfather's house.
Okay, that one, I've got both of those. This property right here, pretty much the same thing. I had a complaint. This was actually a complaint from a neighbor on this house. So
Jimmy Forrest, who
I don't
sold
know.
it to the guy.
I don't know.
It was his mother-in-law.
it was across the street. That's all I know. But go up there. The front yard is cut. Now the bank, that's the right of way. They're keeping it cut and they're keeping it secured. The doors, windows, everything is in place. The utilities are removed from that structure. So this is one of those that if the grass stays cut, it's kind of like some of the flood properties. If the grass stays cut, it's secured by our own municipal code. Unfortunately, it's that way unless the town elects to say, we're condemning it and we're tearing it down at the town's cost, and then we put a lien on that property. Which we've had several of those that we actually did pull the trigger on and took down up on Hillcrest. But that's where we're at with that one. I have spoken to the people that own it. They live in Goodlettsville. They told me that they were going to put vinyl siding on it, going to redo it. I went and looked at the house and was like,
I'm told
you need more than
it's-
vinyl siding.
Yeah, I'm told that it's not fit to live in. Or would be.
You're going to have to do more than vinyl siding on
It
it.
was Jimmy Forrest's house, his mother-in-law's.
Yeah, okay.
And
This
that's
is the
why
last
it's-
one.
And this one's a doozy because we have worked on this one for a while, and I've not had the opportunity to speak with Ms. Noah on this one. At last count, Larry was working on this. Me dealing with Medicare and who's got the lien, they won't give me any information, zero, nothing with it. They just won't.
Who owns it?
Government.
The government owns
Oh, the
it.
government
There's a
owns
lien,
it.
a $20,000 lien on it right now from Medicare, or TennCare. I forget which one it is. I'd have to pull the file on it. But they won't give me any information. I'm like, well, who's responsible for the cleanup of it? Well, the family has been told, don't step foot on the property. You can't do anything with the property. So I've been told. So it's kind of been a,
But it's deeded in the family's name,
yes, ma'am.
and then there's a.
It's still showing under that name when you look on the Tennessee tax assessor and everything. It's still showing under those names. Asking them, they said that they were told they're not to touch it. The doors and stuff. Well, at one time one of the doors was open and I closed it just to make sure it's not
Gutters are
secured.
falling down, part of the
Oh,
roof
yeah.
is caving in.
And this is another one that we probably need to look at because I think the last count, I think 2 years worth of taxes has not been paid on that property. So that's another candidate for, does the town elect to, we're putting a lien on it and we absorb the cost and we tear it down? I mean, that's a decision that I guess that the town will have to make.
Well, and if you've got a $20,000 lien,
Yes, ma'am.
they're gonna, the question is, are we gonna get our money back?
Yes, ma'am. For that lot.
Could you sue the government as slumlords or something? There's gotta be a way to do it.
I bet that's Obama's fault, because of that.
Yeah, I think
And I would need to look, but if it's.
Ma'am?
I said, you do have, Ms. Hyatt came in today.
Well, I saw that you laid on my desk when I come in this evening.
Because it's right across from
Yeah.
her, and,
Well, the other one is too, is right behind.
Yeah.
There's this school right across the road from.
Well, it's in bad shape.
Yeah, it's
Supposedly it's big.
precedence for.
What we may want to, how many years taxes is
I
that?
believe too, ma'am. I can get all that information to you.
Okay, what we may want to consider and look at is, Martha Brook has been doing y'all's tax sales anyway, and tax sales sometimes, get rid of liens, and that may be an option we may want to look at.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, that may be just kind of thinking outside of the box.
Well, I'm gonna finish up by saying I'm kind of tired of hearing excuses for not dealing with these things. And it's not his fault. He does his job, he goes around and writes it all up and everything. But it's gonna take, I think, some creativity and some guts to go do and deal with some of these. And I'm really proud that you've been able to deal with Mr. Burns. We'll see. I'm counting the days, so,
Have you,
thank you.
has it been done in the past where you're signing people into municipal court, or have you had any that you've had to do that on?
Yeah.
Think we've had the one on Hillcrest, and as soon as that was brought to the table, they elected to remove it themselves. And that kind of goes with that, and I hate to use the term making a threat, but once you make that threat, you have to be prepared to back it up. And property on Brookside Drive is a key building. Since the flood has been there sitting vacant, it's one of those deals that, you know, you have to, once you pull that trigger, you have to be ready to
But
do
the one
it.
at the end of Brookside, people are living in that, and I thought it was condemned.
That one is the one that was actually under 50% damaged in the flood. He had structural engineers. This guy, he paid and paid and paid for structural engineers to come in and do that.
That thing was waist deep in water. I went in and helped the lady out there.
And the one next door to it was even higher, and that's the one that it's just, it has to be
I
gone.
saw it up there the other day, and I thought, well, damn, it's supposed to be gone. Well, anyhow, good luck, folks.
Mr. Mayor, while James is here, do any of you have any questions about the life of a building official or code enforcement?
Sounds like you've been pretty busy, but I mean, if we're gonna have ordinances and we're not enforcing them, we're doing all we can do, and then we get to a point because we don't wanna go further, it seems like we're not putting enough teeth in it to get where we go now. I don't know how other cities do and other towns, but I know that Dixon has a tremendous condemnation, and they'll condemn them and tear them down. And yes, and they'll put a lien on it, just like Ms. Noah was saying. The Medicare thing is a tough thing. They want a release on every situation. If you die today, you're gonna have to get a release from Medicare for your state settle. We're going through that now. But if they got a $20,000 lien on it, how much is the property worth if the house wasn't there? You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
I mean, it may be about the same thing, I don't know. But if you don't make some attempt to clean this stuff up, it's just gonna get like it always has done. It gets better, then it gets worse, and we realize it's not your fault. You are limited to what you can do, and you seem like you're doing as much to this point, but I think we need to put some teeth in it in either a legal situation, whatever. I just think people need to be more responsible for the property they own and the people around them. If not, why do we have the zoning rules, and why do we have the rules that we try to operate under today for good health, as well-being? And we're certainly not gonna have anybody coming into the community wanting to build a nice subdivision, knowing some of that stuff exists, close to it. I don't understand how the trailer park itself was originally set up and not set up into some type of organization that it had to be taken care of. You know, the properties had to be taken care of, part of deed restrictions or whatever. But, you know, I don't know what's going on, but I know I'm like Tony after seeing these, because he's kept on, well, you go up and see it. I like to see them better like this in a presentation where I can understand what he's speaking about. But it's not only Tony upset here now. You've got, you know, if we have knowledge of this situation, then we need to do something to show somebody that you really are serious about enforcement.
It is in, I mean, it is in the municipal code, that we've adopted. We have the power to do that.
Right.
It-
I agree. I think we need to really look at
We
this.
just, several of these properties, we're at that line in the sand. Do we do that?
I think we need to do something.
The property ought to be worth 20,000.
Not
I'd
very
like to
long.
make a motion to resume.
Maybe 5.
Second.
Paying more than that, so build another duplex.
Second,
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
What was the motion?
One thing I'd like to throw in.
To resume rules.
Yeah. Throw in for James to do it. And I agree, one of the things that we've discussed, and Mike and I actually did it early on, right, as we kind of got settled in, is we went and talked to some of the, property owners in some situations, some of the, issues we've had, but, you know, these are the things that I think the town does need to start to pull the trigger on. To commend James a little bit, though, is when he goes about doing his job, something I really appreciate that he does is he's not just out there, you know, writing people up, but he also tries to be very instructive and educational in it, and he spends time with these people, and he works with the people as much as he possibly can, and he always tries to make it an informative experience, I think, as well, so that, you know, sometimes some of these folks probably don't realize that they are doing anything wrong, and James is always very good about, in a very compassionate way, just, you know, telling them what's wrong and how they can make it better. So I appreciate the way you go about your business.
What are the steps that we take to resolve the issues? Take, for instance, the piece of property down there with all the dirt and vehicles. We've issued a 30-day notice, right?
Yes, sir.
What happens after that?
With that particular, I mean, well, with most of them, I send the warning notice out, giving them 30 days. At the end of 30 days, and it is a case by case.
Sure.
It is case by case. At the end of 30 days, I can immediately go to citation of court, or I can do, this is your final notice, final 10-day notice, you know, just start making forth progress to get this, you know, get this situation dealt with. And when I mean by cases, but especially on some of these houses on Hillcrest, if I've been most successful with doing the red tag warning, hanging on the door with my cell phone number. Call me. We need to talk about this problem. If I don't get a result from that, it immediately goes into you have a 10-day. The only reason that one went to a 30-day is due to the magnitude of what's on there, the dirt, the equipment, and everything else.
Okay, so in 30 days they don't do anything, then what do you do?
On that one, it'll get a citation of court, just
What do you-
because of the magnitude of it.
And what do you do if nothing gets done then?
Judge does.
The judge does.
Have you had any in court that Judge Maxey's actually heard?
Yeah.
One,
And what was
Andy Sullivan.
Andy Sullivan.
he sold the property?
No, Andy Sullivan had all the cars.
Okay.
Oh.
Jennifer needs to get acquainted with that because it's worse than ever.
Yes, sir, it is.
God, it's unbelievable.
And
The
you
junk
don't want
one
to
here.
happen immediately
But
upon
then
losing
also-
that case.
Okay, really?
It's a damn junkyard.
I'm sorry.
What did I'm sorry, what did y'all lose or did
Just
We're
trying to
outlawed.
get him to clean it up. Every time that you left him a red tag, you know, he'd go buy 2 more cars. That's what he looked like, kind of.
And
I
said that.
think his attorney made it a zoning issue
Yes.
with
language was.
City is
And
outlawed.
it was really some just language in the code that,
One car was tried in that case versus 17 at the time. There's more than 17 now. One car was tried in that case. Our attorney.
Mr. Mayor, just one thing that and James hinted at it, but we are very interested in hearing from residents. As you go out and you talk to people in the community, if they have an issue or a complaint, please send them our way. Whether it's an anonymous email or anonymous, comment, we do try and keep that thing probably pretty private and
No one knows who calls.
pretty private, and we certainly take a look. So I do want to emphasize.
So we had several complaints on Mr. Sullivan, but nobody wanted to back it up and come to court. We didn't have a person in court to complain about nobody. And then probably 50 people's probably called here during all the time that's been going on. Complain,
I did.
but if people don't wanna testify or whatever. So that's one of the reasons we lost. That wasn't the only reason, I don't think, but that was one of the reasons. Just that we'd had some people in court to say that they didn't like it and their property values were going down. Of course, our lawyer said that. It'd been a different story, I think, if we'd had some witnesses, besides Jane, he was the only witness for that, yes.
Moving right on.
They wouldn't even hear me. And I could show proof. It started with 7 cars and ended up with 17.
Mayor, I can look at the ordinance and just kind of see if there's something we need to tweak in it.
it'd be good if we could, and we actually, following that case, have revised that ordinance to,
Okay.
to address some of the judge's concerns. Is there anything else for James? No? All right, on to consideration of request for bids, qualification for sewer pump, station rehabilitation, and grant writing and administration.
Mr. Mayor, following up of the last month's commission meeting, we issued a request for bids and a request for qualifications. One was for a budgeted project out of our sewer fund to rehabilitate a sewer lift, an above-ground sewer lift station above Harpeth Meadows, up off of East Kingston Springs Road. It's that sewer lift station, it's right off the road. We went ahead and solicited for bids. Like I said, it was a budgeted project, and we've gotten some information back. There was one bidder. You've seen the first page is the cover letter on that, and there was a price at the bottom of that cover letter. Cliff, do you want to talk about that?
The only people who bid is the same company who installed it 25 years ago. It's mainly just mostly upgrades, everything's stainless steel. They come out and did some more specs, and it's upgrading the pumps, make it run more efficient, and they're only bidders that showed up.
Should have a life expectancy of 25 years.
Should. He still had all the specs on this station in his office that was 25 years old. He knew everything about it.
And I think the bid came back below what we had expected.
What had we expected? What was the expected cost on that?
I think it was closer to 60. But he come in at, what, 53?
53,021. We need to, can we have a motion to accept this bid?
Motion to accept this bid.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None?
Thank you. The second thing under this docket item is pages, I guess, 2 through 5, but it's we had also asked, there are 2 kind of projects that are transportation projects, sidewalk projects that are hanging out there that will be coming up in rather quickly for us. One is a Safe Routes to School project. to run sidewalks along Harpeth View Trail. I think Lori, when she was here, had priced out doing that, and it falls perfectly within the criteria of the Safe Routes to School program. I've got to get some information about the program. It changes a little bit year to year in terms of the state and local match, and then also some different requirements. It's something that you can apply to now. You'll find out with probably by the end of this fiscal year, and then because it's a federal program, run with highway transportation dollars, you're not doing the project or you're not expending upon it for probably a year or two. I have to go through and find some of that information on Safe Routes, but there was that project, and then there was the additional project on Loudon Hills Road. I think you guys had sat down here maybe this time last year and looked at trying to improve the infrastructure, the pedestrian, maybe the safety infrastructure on Loudon Hills Road. Try to make I guess our gateway into town look a little bit nicer off the interstate. There are two funding opportunities with that. One that you applied for last year is the multimodal funding, and then there's another funding opportunity that's I guess been recommended. That's called Transportation Alternatives, but it's a local, or it's another TDOT local program that can fund pretty much the same improvements with some different kind of program language to it. So the Safe Routes and then the Loudon Hills projects are things that I need to get together applications for pretty quickly. We had wanted to know if there was anybody out there that could help us with grant writing a little bit, but definitely help us with the administration side of it. And we had reached out to folks. We advertised both of these in the Advocate, and we published it on our website, townofkingston.net/ I think it's bid or bidding. You can still see it; it's still posted. And then we've also all these go to a company called VendorRegistry.com, which ships it out to people who look for bids. So I know that it's been seen by some folks. We got one entry in this in a firm from Bellevue called Community Development Partners. They had they've got experience in what we're looking for. I had worked with them in the past in Clifton, and they've been a great firm to work with. They've done work for Penny Grove and Ashland City in the county. They did work for this town in 2003 for a home grant. And talking with preparing applications, if it's something that the board wants to pursue, there's no upfront cost. We talked with our engineer, our town engineer, Jeff Stevens. We talked with these folks, and the three programs I just mentioned, the Safe Routes, the Transportation Alternatives, and the Multimodal, should be able to put something together for no cost. So that's the information that I have right now. Any questions about funding opportunities or?
Well, there was not the multimodal, but the other one. What is the matching rate on that one?
It's called
and on the Safe Route. What's we know that the multimodal is 95% match. What's the rate on
Safe Routes and the Transportation Alternatives? Both of those are funded off of the federal highway transportation money, which, if you're following the drama in Congress, they're limping along, a 3-month extension, a 6-month extension. So these folks don't know if the money's going to flow from the feds to the state to give to localities really month to month. They've just figured out that they've got an allotment to do another round of grant funding in both these programs. And for Safe Routes, it had been traditionally 100%. There's no local match. They covered your engineering. I think the locality would have to do right-of-way acquisition. But hopefully you can get a lot of those. If you need to get them, you can get them donated. Safe Routes, I think they're working on one in Fairview right now with the middle school. But that had traditionally been 100%. I don't know, because I think maybe a day or two ago they just announced the next round of funding, so I will find out about that if it's still 100% for Safe Routes. Transportation Alternative is 80-20, but it's a program where you have to pay 100% and then you get 80% back. and hopefully you're paying on a monthly basis, so you know you're not forking out $600,000 checks. It's incremental, and you know you're getting bills, you're paying the bills, you're getting a reimbursement every month. Typically, I was in a community where they had this funding, and they just finished it up, and a lot of communities, this is kind of cost prohibitive because you're paying for everything up front, and they'll take a grant anticipation note or some sort of temporary funding to pay for that. But again, these are all federal programs. This is something you apply for, and then you're hopefully constructing, 2 years, 3 years out. There's some red tape to jump through.
Well, one thing that we would need to do pretty soon is to start thinking about if we're going to reapply for the multimodal grant, definitely, right?
So the deadlines are November, I think it's November 3rd for transportation alternatives. And then you can apply at the same time for multimodal, which I think is either late December or early January. And then I don't know the deadline for safe routes, but it should be between December and January and February. So these are things that I need to get working on in the next couple of months if it is something you're interested in.
I think that at this point, reapplying for the multimodal grants, we should do it personally, because we've invested the time and energy and frankly money even into doing that. And we were given some direction on what we could do to improve our application, I believe.
That's right.
And I think that's a good thing. The transportation alternatives, though, I mean, that makes me a little bit more uneasy, I think, just as far as, and I know that, I've discussed it with some people, other than you as well, but it's just a little bit uneasy. I don't know what the rest of the board thinks about that, but.
That's the program that Dixon has used, I think they're on their fourth
downtown.
Their fourth round of funding.
Yeah, so there's some precedents for doing it around here, but then Dixon's a much larger town with a much larger tax base and all that goes with that, so. The Safe Routes to School program, though, I think that sounds like, personally, I don't know
Yes.
what your thoughts are. I think that'd be a great thing. Anytime I think we can add more to our walkability and sidewalk infrastructure, that's great.
And safety, too.
And safety.
Both of those applications will have to come back for a resolution, and you'll have to, we'll have to do some public meetings, to be honest, with you, and then we'll put together an application, and you'll have to approve it. So you'll get some more feedback on both of those.
I think it'd be good to, unless someone else would like to get the ball rolling, at least on those two, on reapplying for multimodal and the Safe Routes to School. Item C was the appointment of Leanne Ferguson to Planning Commission. She's she lives over in your neighborhood, one of your neighbors, Bob and Gordon. She's interested in becoming more involved in some of the activities in city government. I think she'd be very good for it, so that's who I've chosen for that. There's still one more opening on the Planning Commission. We found out because Carolyn put in her resignation a week ago or so, I think it was, right?
That's correct.
And that has not yet been filled, so if anyone has any other recommendations on that, I'd be
Is it
happy
city
to
or
hear
county?
them. It's a city, both of them are city, so. Do have that. All right, item D, City Hall improvements.
This is the last page.
Yes, I'm confused with this one. Well, I think we brought this to you all, last month, and I have, solicited 7 different contractors to give me some proposals, and of those 7, only one of them came back with one. And, that's John Hoover, who's the one who did this building. He built the entrance to the city hall. So I'm just looking for approval from you all to be able to start these projects, and I was also looking for some input about replacing the light fixtures, whether, you know, right now, Clint can explain that better than I. Bulbs that we have now use the fixtures use the big bulbs
How
that
they
we can
use the
hit.
little ones, yeah.
So when you put the little ones in there,
This is the
They-
difference right here.
yeah,
That's the old one he's been doing.
Yeah, put the new ballast and all in there, don't you know?
so he's giving me bids on replacing them with new fluorescent bulbs. And then, of course, everybody tells me the thing to do is to go to the LED.
LEDs.
Yeah.
But they're so expensive, the initial cost, you know, I figured I could only do about like 11 of the 33 that need to be done. And then this is a line item that we have every year in the budget unless you all take it away.
So you can get a third of your lighting for over a 3-year period.
Yeah, he'll do it, I'm sure, but I wouldn't be able to do all the lights. We'd just have to select and start and go from there. But I just kind of wanted to know what your preference would be, or if you had one.
I personally feel the LEDs are far superior lighting quality, and they have life expectancy of what, 20 years or something?
More.
And that itself would be a,
You know, I'm supposed to have to buy bulbs for them, aren't you?
yeah.
One of the things that we found though is that the LED lights that we have them installed in a workspace area or in an office kind of area, the lighting is different and it takes a little getting used to. The brightness is, the lumens are not as high in the LEDs, and I think for us a 2x2 is about $400 installed for the light. So, take it from there.
For the LED? Yeah, I think that he told me that, let me look in here, I think he quoted me a price like 200 and, the LEDs were $225 a piece.
Installed?
And then he'll charge us $35 a piece to install.
That's 2x4, not 2x2.
Mhm.
2x4? That's a good deal.
We have, what, Clint, 4, or that are the 2x2s that's in the file room, but all the rest of them are the regular size. But I mean, it's just a project, if we're gonna do it, we need to get started, because especially with Brandy's, it's requiring cutting the outside. I have to have time to get that put back together before winter.
LEDs do not contain any mercury, they're disposed of. LEDs are also, use less electricity.
Oh, yeah, significantly less.
Well, it seems to me that would be the way to go on that.
Okay, so you wanna do the LEDs? I just need a motion that I can proceed.
Do we have a motion to proceed with the city hall improvements?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Item E, renaming the city office building, after, Mayor Campbell. It's it's not a named building right now, and we've got Audrey Beck Hall that we're sitting in right now. I think after, I've had some discussions with some folks, after his 23 years of service to his community, that's something that I think bears, we all remember, and I think it would be appropriate to do something to honor that service, maybe in the way of naming a building after Mr. Campbell. I know my personal recommendation has always been that we name the sewer system after him, but Bob Sanders has said that we should just do the treatment
He don't care
plant down
unless
there
you
called
name
Campbell
something after
Lakes,
him.
but
Campbell
I
Lakes.
said, Bob don't care unless you name something after him. He'd be happy. That's the
so
only flack you're gonna get.
I wanted to know if anyone had any input on that, what your thoughts are on doing that.
You want me to leave?
Do we need to kick him out before we?
Just put a bust of him with his cell phone, holding it up.
Motion to approve name of the building after Tony Campbell.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
I missed a second. Thank
Bob.
you for going.
Gordon, Bob, and
Campbell's,
Campbell Community Center?
Campbell Station.
Campbell Center? Campbell Center?
It's Campbell Office Building.
Are you all wanting some kind of signage put up,
I
or?
think we should have a plaque or something
Yeah,
that
let's-
indicates it, I think it should.
Let's get one of the guys up there on Hillcrest to
Yeah.
make a sign.
Make it out of log.
Oh, man. Do you want me
What
to
do
just
one
take
of
that
those
funding out of the fund
Wood
balance?
burning stuff over.
What?
That's not budgeted, so do you want me to take that funding out of the fund balance to do that, and how much?
Well, I think we need to know somewhere along the lines of, you know, what the signage or plaque or whatever would cost, I assume, I don't know.
We don't want gold,
You don't know.
not gold, let's make it out of something.
Campbell will pay for its own.
Probably something up there in that
We'll research
picture.
that.
Do a little research and come back to us on that, I think, would be
Metal
a good ideal.
Yeah. I'm sure you can find something in that spot.
Monthly discussion, surplus items. We did have a surplus
We have one
item. Credit
item.
card machine, that's right.
We had to replace, remember the credit machine, because, you know, they now have the chips in them, and ours doesn't read the chip, so we had to upgrade to one that would read the chip.
No, ours doesn't read the chips either.
So, we had to buy a new one, and now we have to get rid of the other one.
All right, do we have a motion to surplus the used credit card?
Motion to throw away the used credit card machine.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? All right. All right, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Still an hour and 10 minutes.
Yes, a long length.
Yeah, shut that.
Yeah, it's long.